Well, hello there. Welcome to this small, sensible slice of England. My name is Seth. This is Sweet Chariot, where we do sensible things like beautiful woodwork, making bows. I made a bow. It's been a good few days actually. Let's just take a brief moment. Made an older hiking stick. I'm pretty sure it's older because it's got spalting on it and it's white. It's not birch. It's not hazel. I don't think it's hazel anyway. It's a cool hard white wood, which has made a cool stick. Getting that one finished up. I've just got this one out of the heating jig. Getting them all straightened out. It's straightened out really well. It's had a massive bend in it. Real big bend in it. It's straightened out beautifully. And this is where I cut my teeth when it came to dealing with you, making sticks. They make really cool sticks. I got one finished up and on my eBay shop. There's two U sticks on my eBay shop currently, and this one is going to be joining it shortly as soon as I get this handle finished up. Not too much though, going to keep it nice and raw. Might put this one up as well. We'll see how it turns out. I think it needs a bit more drying out, this one. Picked it out the forest, foraged wood. Yes, which is probably a good time to start talking about my other piece of foraged wood, which has been a point of contention. Rightly so. That's not going to stay there. You can stay there. Yes, rightly so. To make a bow out of foraged, unproven wood can be heartbreaking. Can be a bit of a waste of time. Yeah, what did I do? I found a tree. Back up, Seth. This is a bow that I've made. And I think I'm going to title this video the Holmegaard bow. See if we can do a thumbnail. I'll do a better thumbnail with it strong. Yeah, this I didn't start off making a Holmegaard bow, and I think people would disagree with me that it is because the Holmegaard bow, which is they're 10,000-year-old bows that were found in Europe, so indication of sort of the earliest bow use, I think. I don't even know if they were human Homo sapien. It might have been earlier relatives of ours, but they were using a bow that looked very much like this. I think the Holmegaard bow is a elm self bow. It's another self bow, second string self bow like ash. So it does stand to reason, if they had it in the area, that they would have made them out of yew as well. Yeah, maybe not in that area, or at least people of the same sort of time in different parts of the world. Yeah, who knows? It's very hard to know when it comes to wood stuff, unless someone dropped a bow in a bog and someone was able to find it 10,000 years later. We don't really know. There's definite evidence of this style of bow being used a very long time ago. And we'll talk about exactly what style of bow we're talking about. Flat and white. I say some people might disagree, because the Holmegaard bow is supposed to have a long point, I should say, is what I was going to say. Who knows why exactly, or what? Well, I theorized when I saw the photographs of the Holmegaard bow that it might just be for finishing off your prey. Save you carrying a spear with you as well. Let's say, or if you needed to pin the thing down, whether or not they'd be happy to use their beautifully crafted bow to stab an animal with, I don't know. But the other reason that you'd make super pointy tips is because small pointy tips move very quickly. As little material as possible right at the very end of your tip, because that's the very first bit of your bow that moves. Yeah, so that's a good time to sort of talk into how I ended up making this bow. So I was going to say, I didn't start off with the Holmegaard bow in mind. It's a blueprint that you can look up and do the exact measurements for. What I was trying to do was turn this particular wood into just a bow that worked. This is what I'm trying to do. I mean, this is outdoor forest wood. I'm gonna say, linking back to that. So the whole thing is a gamble anyway. Point of contention is people would say, you just don't bother. You make sure that you've got wood that was cut properly and stored properly, and then if you're going to put any energy into it, it's in the best piece of wood that it possibly could be. It's going to perform the best, and it's going to last as long as possible. But I sort of did it backward. You know, most people would go, right, I want to build a bow. Let's go find some yew. I found some yew and then started building bows. So my sort of theory was, you know, if I can get it to work, that's grand. I mean, as I was making sticks out of the tree I found, the first bits I found, so sawdust up my nose. I was noticing how bendy they were, how well they were taking the set, all this sort of stuff. So I was like, right, well, it'd be rude not to try, right? And then it started working. They fired arrows. I mean, the first bow I made was just a boomerang. It's just fully back set, bending in the middle, but it fired an arrow. It hurt my shoulder. It's like 70 pounds to pull it, but it fired an arrow. Then the next one fired an arrow a little bit better. I sort of went down the avenue of trying to get a self-bow to fire an aluminium arrow before I knew anything about horse bows, because a horse bow can fire an aluminium arrow, or a arrow that's not spined for the bow, absolutely fine. You capture the bow out of the way. So yeah, you can save yourself a lot of hassle by just learning how to shoot instinctive thumb draw. It's brilliant. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. 3-finger Mediterranean style. It's grand. It's great fun. It's beautiful getting that precise. But compared to shooting instinctive thumb shooting off the right hand side of the bow, it just feels a little sterile. Almost, I don't want to say boring. I don't want to say sterile. Yeah, shooting thumb is dramatic and involving, and yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, if you haven't tried it, give it a try. So as well as being a fun way to shoot, I prefer the handle. Yeah, which ties us back to the Holmegaard bow, because, well, like I said, I had a comment a while ago saying you should make the Holmegaard bow. I was like, yeah, well, yeah, whatever. I'll get into that. I'm a bit tied up trying to learn how the things work at the minute. Another fella came back recently saying the same thing. Firstly, talking about using outdoor cured wood and how it's really not a good idea. And he was, unless you know what you're doing, absolutely right. And I was absolutely ready to be proved wrong, just have every single one snap. But that is unfortunately not what has happened. So I guess I should stress the point is that I've got very fortunate here. I found a tree that had blown over, propped itself up off the ground. It had taken out the trees next to it, or one of the trees next to it. So it freed up a bit of airflow, but it wasn't in a clearing where the sun was directly on it at any point. Yeah, and I found it before the sapwood had rotted, so but long enough for it to cure somewhat, but then not so long that the sapwood was starting to rot and crack and let go, which I had noticed on some of the other pieces I'd found in different woods, where they'd clear cut some common yew or fast growing yew. There's a few different types of yew. I'm still learning. Anyone want to chime in with some more species of yew in this country that you might find? But yeah, they've been clear cut from around older yews, and they'd done it over a couple of years. So there was bits that were out there, had been out there for at least a year, maybe two, and yeah, definitely not ideal. But I was able to make a bow work. First, you had to find that was tricky to find. There was lots of younger stuff that had been cut that year, which some of them worked. I see, but I wasn't sure how long any of them had been down, but that could be tie in with it. Some I'd found might have been cut earlier than other bits, and then therefore certain bits work better. Yeah. So this is what you're trying to avoid when you cut a green piece of wood and you stick it away nice in the perfect environment for it to dry out for 3 years. Then you know you've got a cured piece of wood. You're not doing this gamble with how long it's been blown down for. If it was in an area where it didn't have direct sunlight on it to make it split, but there was enough airflow that it actually dried out and it's propped up off the ground so the mold didn't set in and rot the thing straight away. There was a lot of variables when it came to that tree to make it cure somewhat in the position that it was. So it's yeah, it definitely felt like a bit of a gift. Like it was rude not to try and make some bows from it, right? Because it's a hard wood to come by. So to see it rotting away is yeah, I'm glad I could have intervened, and I've learnt a lot. And I hope I'm bringing something to you. So yeah, even though this isn't a Holmegaard bow, it shares a lot of the characteristics. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, instead of going, right, I'll go look up the Holmegaard bow when the first matey boy said to me I should make it, I was just, right, focus on learning how to make an arrow go quickly. Because making a bendy stick that shoots an arrow, not overly difficult. Difficult enough, but you can make it a bow that works. But then any reasonable person, let alone any bow maker, should then go, right, well, how quick is my projectile going? And then you start looking for data points. You get your chronograph out, you check the weight of your arrow versus the weight of your bow, and then you see how well your bow is actually performing, which is what took me to Wales Archery Specialist. That was a moment for me where I was like, right, well, if you're going to be doing this, go and speak to them, and you're going to be put in your place, and that's what you need, because you need a reality check. If you're trying to sell these bows, you really need to know how well they're doing. Yeah, they're a bow, but you're asking for money for people, so you should really be able to tell them more about it and ensure that it's working properly. So yeah, that's what took me there, and it opened my eyes. You know, left the bows up for sale. I've taken a bunch of them down now because good bits of you. I can make, and I think I can make them work better. I can definitely get the finish better on them. So I've left a couple up, including Agents up there still, and Thatcher's up there as well. Maybe Maiden. They all work really nice, and they're sort of front set and fast enough that I can say that is a bow that you can take and use, and you can use it to learn archery. It might not be the fastest. It won't be the fastest bow, absolutely not. But they draw and they perform in a way well enough that you can learn technique. You can start, or you can just at least appreciate a U bow. The next step was to try and get them to go quicker, and then you've just got to look at the design. Everything gets honed in. It gets incrementally more difficult to get speed, but if you get everything right, it all adds up, and then you get your top speed. And it's all about stored energy, right? Trying to get these limbs. This is why your recurves, your horse bows are going to be super quick, because the limb comes up, you know, the handle's dipped way back, the limb comes up like this, then it comes up again, and you end up with that super go faster position on your string, which, you know, it's going to make it loud, but it's going to make it quick. You know, string is going to be slapping against the back of the bow here, and it trying to sort of return to past where the bow will let it is what increases that speed. But that is the challenge with bow making. You're trying to store as much energy as possible and make it draw back as far as possible. Obviously, storing the energy is one thing, and then delivering it to the arrow is another. You have a whole bunch of energy, you know, stored in the bow, but you're only able to draw it back 8 inches. It's not going to transfer all that energy into the arrow. Well, sorry, it will transfer the energy into the arrow, but there's only a short amount of time with the string propelling the arrow. The longer you can leave the string behind the arrow, the more energy is going to be transferred into the arrow. There's the challenge. So here's me trying to make these pieces of you work better by just applying these things. Well, yeah, one I've been sort of cottoning on to, but who commented recently about, you know, making one of these, sort of confirmed is the fibers in your heartwood. And so I've seen it done. You can release this is what we talk about stages. First thing you got to do is release a piece of Selfbow yew from a log. You need a nice ratio of sapwood to heartwood. Runs, you know, a nice straight stave like this with no imperfections on your back, so that you can make it bend without worrying about, you know, fibers letting go and it breaking. Yeah, get a nice piece of that first. Then you're looking into creating the even limbs, the even tapers, both this way and this way as well. And then obviously matching up the shapes, you know, where they sit in this direction and also in this direction. So yeah, there's a lot to consider. If you have a bendy piece of wood, which this one was. If you had a nice straight piece of wood, much less in the way of shaping to get it to this stage. So what I started with was the structure of, as well as the structure of the sapwood and the heartwood, the fibers that make up the wood can be damaged if you. So I'm learning, if you heat them up too much and shape them around too much, you take away some of the strength, some of their ability to retain memory, or at least maybe the density in the belly. Belly, yeah, back belly in the belly here, which is what gives it its power. Yeah, so minimal amount of shaping was something I picked up on about halfway through this. After having to do a whole bunch of shaping to get it to this point. I mean, like it. If the bow's twisted, it's going to break. So there's no point in saving your belly fibers if the bow's just going to break because you haven't shaped it enough anyway. But this is the Selfbow. Each piece of wood is going to be unique. They're all going to have very slightly different issues. They're going to allow different things to be done to them. And I guess in terms of protecting the fibers, you sort of want to do what you want to do to it within a certain amount of heatings and shapings to do the least amount of damage to these as possible. I imagine that's why steam is good. I've heard it being said it's the friendliest to the wood. So it's most gentle to the fibers when it comes to heating them up and then allowing them to become malleable and actually shape. And this thing you does fine with the heat gun, I think because it's quite resinous, maybe. All woods are very slightly different. So yeah, here was me, just trying to make a faster bow, just trying to take what I've learned about bow making and try and apply it to making a flat bow, which is what this piece of wood allowed. It allowed a 64-inch bow, 67 inches long, so I could make a 64-inch bow. It was wide enough to make a flat bow, so I was like, cool, I'll go for a flat bow design. You know, if these two hold together, it's very strange looking. The heartwood's very thin here, but it's structurally sound. It's all good. Yeah, and this dive, there's a dive in this limb here. That actually became the thinnest point of the limb. So typically speaking, we could to try and create your taper down on the sort of widest limb that you can do. Well, no more than 2 inches normally, right? On your different designs. Excuse me. I was going to say, yeah, in the first honing of this was a dive. A piece of wood just boom flipped up straight away and immediately took us down to about the deepest point I could get away with on this bow. So I was very tentative immediately at this point, and instead of starting at the tips, which you'd normally do, and then sort of start at the tip, make sure that's small, and then you're left with all the material that you're going to create your taper down, I had to start here and hope that there was enough material at the end here. We just about got away with it. There was still not quite right in this hinge. I mean, this one could maybe back set just a little bit. I think it's bending just a tiny bit more, hinging very slightly in this area. So, but it's not much. I'll string it up in a second and show you. So yeah, this particular piece of wood, I first had to navigate those and turn it into the bow that the width, the original dimensions of the log could allow. And being that I've done a whole bunch of center cut bows and they're grand, but they're very well catered for in the market. I'm trying to sell these, trying to hook them up with owners, and if we're honest, the center cut sort of recurve-ish longbow is very well catered for. You make a really good one out of fiberglass, straight up. But you can't make a Holmegaard out of fiberglass. It has to be a Selfbow of some sort. But I didn't know this. Yeah, so here's me making my 64-inch flat bow just as well as I can, getting onto me my horsebow handle, and a fella chimes in saying you should make a Holmegaard bow, and lo and behold, it's an absolute dead ringer. Just landed on. So yeah, the design is solid. One thing I've got to decide now is, do I try and front set these limbs a little bit more? That would in theory store more energy in the bow, might shorten the draw length a bit, and require a bit more material be taken away maybe to be able to hit that nice thumb draw length. And so I've got a remnants of a crack here. Like I said, this piece was incredibly twisted, made it so hard to follow the ratio of heartwood to sapwood, and in the process of trying to get it straightened out, I did absolutely overcook it. I was brain dead. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And just without thinking, I think I was thinking about something else, just kept on squeezing the grip. And I looked down and there it was, a little crack. But that was quite a while ago in the build process. So I looked at it, sort of running across the grain. I go, right, okay, we've still got quite a bit of material there. So it does mean, I mean, if I was to get rid of that completely, you can get away with quite a lot in your heartwood. You don't want that. Absolutely don't want that, and you can avoid it. But in terms of imperfections, like this, you can get away with quite a lot because all this material gets compressed rather than stretched. So yeah, this is structurally sound. And one thing, it's going to take it down in power if I keep on working it, but I could make this disappear. It's just the very last bit of the crack. Really annoying though. Yeah, little things like that, because well, you can understand why they make 3-piece bows. If you break a limb, you can just add another limb. Yeah, small imperfections like that, and you go, the whole thing's ruined. No, yeah, I've got another one up here to contend with. That was a rip out. So what can I do? Like with this, do I leave it there? And just I like the way the bow performs. So this is the decision I've got to make. I'll keep on going with the handle. We can definitely make that narrower and more comfortable. But now we come into that game of power versus draw length and shape. So yes, what do? Do I try and ask more of the stave? I thought about that earlier. That's a good way to put it. When you're trying to take a piece of wood like this, and I have seen it done, fully recurve and shape the hell out of it. It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot to ask of your Selfbow. I mean, if you've got nice pieces of wood and you're a good bowyer. I mean, Dreamcraft Bows. You guys might have seen him on YouTube. He makes all manner of shapes of Selfbow. I think he's tentative in his full draw, which is understandable. But you can't be. No, I'm not going to knock his bow making skills at all. The guy tries very, very hard. Let's not knock that. I have no place to do that. Sorry, what was I saying? Yes, draw length versus speed. So I got to take all these things into account. So what I said about the heating up the fibers, I'm trying to store more energy in there, maybe having to take material away to make it draw further. So you're back in the horsebow style with more energy going into the arrow. Or do we just leave it like this? Slightly back set and only tiny bit reflexed as it is. Let me shoot it. See what you reckon. What do we got here? Let's start off with the aluminium. It's probably the lightest. It's dark back here, so it's hard to see. Have I got it the right way up? No. Let's put it the right way up. Bear with me. It's my first day. Right, cool. I haven't got a knocking point either. All my excuses. Let's see how we're doing. Right, we'll go back to, what were we about, I don't know, 8-10 meters, something like that. That was the alley. I don't know if I drew that the whole way. Yeah, I've not exercised it in. So let's do a bit of that. This arrow is meant for about a 55-pound bow, I think. Still not drawing the whole way, I don't think. It's hard to tell in the dark. But not bad speed, eh? Not a good group, but not bad speed. That was for a 65-pound bow. Flying nice and straight. That's the beauty of the Catra. Let's see, there's still material to go. I could do an arrow pass as well to get more out of the way. Yeah, the arrow pass is much more needed for the left-hand side, I would say. That's the technique to get the bow out of the way. You hit your string on your arm, don't you? I haven't got my tillering tree set up. I need to do this. So at the minute I'm stuck watching someone else pull the bow or watching this video back. Hopefully we got a good angle there. Yeah. There is a outdoor cured foraged somewhat rotten piece of yew that just threw those arrows. That's just straight into layers of cardboard. There's my dilemma. I've got people saying that you shouldn't use forage wood to make a bow. And there we are. Yeah, trying to get them to work better. This is what I was going to round up saying. Trying to just learn what makes the yew self-bow in particular work better, and applying it to design has landed me at the design that they came up with 10,000 years ago. So yeah, good job. Good job, humanity. I have to be impressed. So yeah, I'm gonna say, promise you, there's people who have no idea. I have no idea about the properties of this wood, where to find it, how to deal with it, why a bow is even important. Yeah, in the comments, tell us why bows are important, and there's various ways to look at it. Yeah, this is our history right here. I see we like to think we're better than their ancestors. There's certain things we have to do to sort of prove that. Yeah, so it ties back to that sensible slice of England that I welcome you to here. And thank you for joining me, by the way. If you knew, more than 600 people now subscribed. Thank you so much. That's awesome. It's really good. It climbs up each time I chuck out a short, and it stokes me. It really stokes me to know that people are keen to absorb it. I might not be beating, I don't know, chicks in really tight yoga pants, but damn it, I'll try. Come summertime, I'll get shirtless and in some tight trousers again, and we'll see how we do. But I think it's mostly dudes who watch YouTube, so that might be folly. And what we'll do, we'll keep on making cool stuff, like the Holmegaard bow, which isn't a Holmegaard bow. It's more of a flat bow, horse bow, self bow. It works well though. I will get out and do a shooting video soon. I've got a spot I want to get to and test. First I need to finish off some bows. I've had some problems with the tips of my horse bows, so they're not completely failed. What have I got? Yeah, and the Maruki tip and the horsebow tip have been giving me troubles. They're both now, instead of making 60 or 64 inch bows, they are going to make 57-inch bows. Maybe, hopefully, that's the plan. Use sort of slightly extended tips. But anyway, yeah, get this one done, and hopefully one of those. Take 2 bows out and do some shooting outside, do some testing, and show them off. But like I say, the devil's in the detail, and that the devil is in the data point. Is that even a phrase? I'm calling it now. Yeah, devil's in the data point, because it can feel quick. It can feel absolutely fine. Or maybe yeah. Maybe I don't want to say taking it too seriously, because I've said literally to this fella who told me I should try this design to be sort of friendliest to the yew, that this also can be fun. This is supposed to be fun. Like I say, any curious person who wants to be doing things properly, you're gonna want to know how well it's actually doing. I think that really got drove home when I sort of went to the archery shop. I walked into Wales Archery. They're excellent guys, by the way. Particularly Ollie, he was extremely helpful. He's their trad archer, who is very keen on traditional archery and also interested in the thumb shooting, the Marukis and the Asian style of archery. It wasn't something they specialised in really. They had bits of the equipment and whatnot, but they stock recurves and compounds. That's their bread and butter. But he sent me on that sort of that avenue. Yeah, but walking there and sort of got a little bit dazzled by it all. Sort of okay, this is true competition here, and it's very well catered for. Like I say, especially the centre cut. But if you're going to buy a centre cut bow, you buy a fiberglass one. Really, I'm honoured to have had someone buy one of my centre cut longbows. That was very, very good of them. Absolute gamble on a new bowyer and his silly design. What can I say? It worked really well. Got that bow working silly well, and I tested that one. Went to the archery shop and tested it with this arrow, so it ended up being a 35-pound bow. This is a 430 grain arrow, so close to 100 grains. Excuse me, close to 100 grains too heavy for the bow, and it shot it at 151 feet per second. So yeah, your Selfbow designs, they want to be hitting 170 to 200 sort of the lid. I think the heavier war bow is probably like 300 feet per second, but in terms of, you know, let's say 30 to 60 pound bows, something like that. Considering the weight of the ammunition to the bow, they can do those speeds. And fellow who was telling me, you know, I can't remember his name. That would have been good to do on it. The guy's chimed in lately to sort of set me straight on forage wood. He was saying that a lot of the different designs only have 10-15 feet per second in them. You know, your recurve versus your longbow versus flat bow, things like this. Yeah, I guess those factors could also be changed by the material. Well, definitely be changed by the material you use and how well the design is finished. All the very small details are taken into account, and the quality of the materials. Yeah, which I'm still surprised now. So what I'd like to do is get this one shaped as it should be, and then get it back to Wales guys and take a test with an arrow that's weighted properly for it, because that's the only way to really see how well you're doing. But of course, I've noticed this earlier. I went out to see one of the neighbours and brought this out to show him, and he said, "Yeah, you know, it's looking proper now." And I think that's that's a big teller, really. You know, when you sort of start applying the engineering of how these things are supposed to work. You know, your tapers down either side of it, everything's lined up properly, and then the handle is catered for as it should be. You know what? Funny enough, it starts to look like bows you've seen before, because we've done this for a long time. Bows, like I say, it's good to honour that and keep the memories alive. Yeah, you can have pictures of it on Google, but go make it. This is something beautiful. The whole activity is grand, isn't it? Really. Yeah, it's an honour to be able to share it with you. What was I going to say? Yeah, the decision now. And so you saw it throw arrows, and it threw them quite quickly. But then I'll get that data point, and I might want to make them go quicker. Yeah. So if I was to want to do that, what would be a good move now? And it's all got to be in the shape. Everything's lined up as it should be. Yeah, what would you do? I mean, you could, I guess, you could bend from here. You could store energy from this point. Or we could try and reflex more. Try and put more resistance in the very tip of the bow. I need to get my tiller and tree set up. I think that would give us the best idea of how it's moving and what it's going to want to do. Yeah, I guess as a takeaway from this video is the Selfbow is very much a negotiation with the piece of wood. Definitely want to start with the best piece of wood that you can find. That's a no-brainer. Of course, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm just left with this fact that I've managed to make bows out of foraged wood, and I realise I'm quite fortunate in that regard. It's a good find, but you don't find it unless you get out and look for it, and you're not going to see it unless you get in the mind to see it. That makes sense. Like I said before, when I first saw that fallen yew tree, I was like, "Ooh, that's going to be a lot of sticks. I could make a whole bunch of sticks out of that." There was no inkling of wanting to make a bow. I was like, "No, that's out my skill level. Can't be doing that. Sounds like too much work." And then yeah, once I got honed in with your techniques of how to make a stick, first using your saws. I mean, when you're making bows, you have to learn to split, use mallets and things like that. My God, I ruined my forearms. I was trying to process quite a bit of it. Yeah, using the mallet just ruined up in here, to the point where I then couldn't use the finer tools, or it made it hard to shoot as well. But yeah, learned how to cut and shape the wood and straighten the wood, and once all that sort of became familiar and much more pedestrian to me, making a bow seemed much more within within what I could do, within my skill level. So yeah, get out, find a way to do it. I mean, yeah, you can always buy bow wood. It's a great way to make friends as well. You know, country sort of pursuit. There's going to be people who have done this. I mean, I got messaged by a fella I'd sold wood to on eBay, and he'd managed to, one of his friends, I think, had stored a whole bunch of good yew logs away. They'd cut down on their property and was selling them or giving them away. And this fella had messaged me to let me know that there was logs up for grabs if I could get myself there. So yeah, this has been a really good way to interact with people, which is another good thing. So just another good part of this whole activity. Yeah. So thanks very much, everyone. I guess that's everything. I mean, yeah, comments first, like and subscribe, hit that notification bell and notification bell. I need a cup of tea, and yeah, help me build this channel. And comment, tell me what I should do with this. I'm gonna work more on the handle and keep shooting it, because you shouldn't get attached to a bow until it's fired a lot, at least 100 arrows, and this one hasn't done it yet. I've only just got the handle thin enough where it works, even with Catra. So yeah, a bit more doing to the handle, and I'll shoot in between sessions on that. Yeah, and let me know if I should try and change it, make it quicker, or if this is adequate. Or won't we know until I've tested the speed with a proper arrow, waited for the bow, so taking the weight. Yeah, it feels somewhere between 35 and 50, I think. I don't think it's quite as high as 50. But it hurts my thumb in a way a 30-pound bow wouldn't. Yes. Right, cool. I think I'm done rambling. Thanks again, everybody. Next long video, I'll try and take this out shooting, I think. It's probably the thing to do. Nice one. I'll see you then.